Hello and welcome to another tutorial for SoulLink Artificial Intelligence Alpha testing. We're going to continue where we left off before, creating a small demo RPG game. And basically I've set up this island with a little seaport on one end and an vector character right here. And the basic premise for the RPG is that this shipwreck occurs during a storm, and the character gets ashore barely in his little lifeboat. But when he arrives, he doesn't remember anything about what happened to him or why he's there. And we're going to build from that. So right now we're just going to start creating AI from scratch. I'm just going to start with animal AI, because they're the least complex. And the assets that I'm using right now for this, I'm using this Protofactor Inc. Animal pack. You can see various animals. Here we go. So this has some fish, sharks, dolphins, some forest animals, birds, and even some African animals. I'm going to be using this boar character to start with. I'm also using the Jungle Animal FX free pack, Animal Sound Effects free pack. It has some pigs and boar sounds. And I'm going to use this Hit Impact Effects asset for hit effects. And finally, I have these Footsteps Essentials, another free pack I'm using for some footstep sounds. First thing, let's take a look at the animal pack. Under boar, the FBX files. These are all the animations that come with it. Some of them are root motion, indicated by the _RM. And some are not. We're going to use the root motion. Other things to check before you use animations is make sure your idle animations are set to looping, your running animations are set to looping, any turning animations and walking and so forth. One thing I did find was the death animation for some reason in this pack was set to loop, and I had to turn that off. So I went ahead and turned that off. Another thing that's kind of important, since some of these packs have a lot of the same internal naming conventions, if you look on these, for instance, this attack 1, it's called boar _attack 1, but that was not the original name. The original name was just attack 1. And if I look at all the other animals, they all have the same name. And so it's hard to distinguish when you're looking for animations with the search feature and the AI search feature that to find the particular ones that you're looking for if they're all named the same thing. So I went in and internally renamed all the animations to boar _ followed by the original name. So now they'll be easy to find. So that's one thing that's important to do. Another thing we want to do before we continue, if this is your first time using SoulLink AI in a project, you want to set up your SoulLink settings. You can type settings here, and you should be able to find SoulLink settings. This points to the default database. For my purposes, I'm going to use that default database, but you might want to create a clean one with your own data. Also, it points to your animator's location. This is where the controllers will be created when you create your AI. Then you have your default AI tag, default AI layer, and default faction. Now, right now I'm using the Invector controller, and there is no monster tag or monster layer. Now, I could add them, but to go along with the system that Invector uses, it likes to have things named enemy so that it knows that those are things that can be attacked. And so instead of monster, I'm going to change these to enemy defaults. That'll just make it go easier once we get to the actual setup of the AI, so it correctly gets the correct tags. We can also default actions or default footsteps or hit effects, and a con system, which is a consider system, which is similar to the original EverQuest, which allows you to know whether or not a monster is too difficult for you or not, based on the player level versus the monster level. And the default health bar, which I am using the one that comes with SoulLink AI, and default spawn action is the fader. I will go ahead and set the con system to default to con system. And I don't yet have any hit effects or footstep effects, so I'm going to leave that alone for the moment. So what we will do is go ahead and create footsteps object so that we can use that. So I'm going to go into, let's see, so prefabs. I've got a templates folder, which I'm going to delete this. I previously set this up. I'm going to delete this bore. I've also got an abilities folder. I'm going to go ahead and create a footsteps folder. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change this. I'm going to create a folder called AI Setup. And in there, I'm going to move the abilities and the templates. And then I'm also going to add a footsteps folder. That'll allow me to put the different scriptable objects that we can use to set up the characters with. So in here I'm going to go and create SoulLink AI footstep object. And I'm just going to call this animals. This will allow me to reuse the same footsteps for various animals that are walking around instead of having unique sounds for them. And all I have to do here is add a few different footstep sounds. I'm just going to add one initially. I'm going to go to that footstep pack. And there's a dirty ground footstep. Let's try this one. Dirty ground land. Go ahead and add that clip. I'm going to make it full volume. 3D. Minimum range 3, max range maybe 10. The weight, that's simply how often this particular sound will play in the collection. So if I add 5 of these footstep sounds and I weight them higher, having higher numbers for some, then they will occur more often. In this case, I don't care. I'm just gonna leave it at 0. Actually, let's make it 1. Then they'll just all have the same value. Add another one. Use the second sound. Third one. Go ahead and put this one. I'll just do all 6 of them. And final one. Okay, so now I have the footstep sounds object. The next thing, since we are going to create the boar, and the boar is going to be kind of unique, I'm going to create a boar attack object. I could just use the default melee combat attack objects, but to show you how it works, I'm going to go ahead and create a specific one for the boar. And you should do these before you create your animator templates and set up your animations, because you're going to need it later. So I'm going to make an ability object. Call it boar attack. This is going to be attack 1. For class name, we're just going to call it base. It's an offensive ability, a blend tree animation type. This means that if you had multiple of these abilities, they would all be on the same blend tree and they would randomize. We'll make it a melee attack. We'll call it piercing damage. Make sure you give it a range. This will be a close range attack. We're not going to have an ability attribute used. We could do this. We could say that the attack requires stamina and how much stamina it requires. And then if it doesn't, if the character does not have that much stamina to attack, it will not be allowed to attack. We're going to give it a 100% probability success rate. So every time it attacks, it will succeed if it's in range. Then we're going to tell it what attributes are affected on the target. In this case, we're going to say that this reduces the health, and it's a permanent condition. It could be a temporary, which means that you could subtract the certain the damage, and then it could go away after a certain length of time. We're going to say minimum of 5 and a maximum of 10 damage. I'm not going to worry about effects regeneration. Next is combat effects, which we're not going to use this right now. This is a more advanced feature. That's down here. This has got a lot of things you can do to affect the combat. And in this case, you could select, say, agility, strength, health, or shielding, and it could damage that or affect it in a certain way. It's not a projectile, so we skip that. We are going to do an ability sound for the attack. So let's go to those pig sounds we got. Sound FX, pigs. See if there's anything useful here. It's wild boar. What does this do? What does that sound like? Well, that middle part of the sound sounds like it could be used for an attack sound. Not a great sound, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and modify this. You can use any sound editor that you're used to using. I use Adobe Audition. It's loading. All right, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut it out to there. Copy to new. I'm going to have it fade out. Okay, that's good enough. I'm going to save this. I'm going to call it Boar Attack 1. I'm just going to change these to 16-bit. Alright, sound effects. There we go. Alright, so let's go back to our ability. Oops. Alright, now we can add this clip. Boar Attack 1. Make sure the volume, that's 3D. Give it a minimum range 3, max 10. Weight 1. Also, we note that The cooldown for the ability is 2.5 seconds, so it can attack every 2.5 seconds, and it is interruptible. Okay, so now we have the boar ability. So that's prepared. And we have our footstep sounds. We do want to set up some hit effects as well, so when the boar is hit, you will see like an effect when it hits. So let's create a folder. Hit effects. Alright, let's find a hit effect. Where was it? Travis Game Assets, hit effect, prefabs, hits. This is the #1 effect. Yeah, that should be sufficient to demonstrate. So what I'm going to do is, what I really need is the timed despawn. Time despawn. We'll despawn after 3 seconds. I'm not sure that I need to spawnable on this at all. We'll just try it like this first. Okay, we'll go ahead and put that as a prefab. And then we're going to create a hit effects object. Let's call it animal hit effects. And we're just going to put that in there. It's the only one. Another thing we need to note is we do need to put that in our pool manager manually. So we'll create a category called hit effects. Add it. And then add this. And we'll say 5 at a time should be good. Grow capacity just in case. Save this. Alright. So we've done the attack, the hit effects, footstep sounds. We renamed our animations. Alright, so I guess we're ready to go ahead and create our template now. So create SoulLink AI animator template. Call it boar. Alright, we're going to click on Animator Template Wizard. Okay. So let's go to where we've got our model. We have our boar model. I'm going to assign that here so that we can see it here in the window, and we can drag it around and look at it. Now here's where we see the benefit of renaming those animations, because now I can go here and type boar underscore, and now I'm going to see just the boar animations. Whereas if I just looked at attack 1, run. There's a lot of run root motion, another run root motion. There's just a lot of duplicates for a lot of those animals. So now we're just going to get just the ones we want here. Alright, first things first, set our idle animation clips. We've got at least 2 of them, so I'm going to create 2 clips there. And let's select the idle breathe animation, which you can see is just him breathing. We hit the A button to assign it, here. This makes it a lot easier to select, search, select, and assign animations. And then we got a look around animation. We'll assign that to the second one. Hit animations, we'll add one clip. We have a board get hit animation. We can assign that. Death animations, only one death. Board death. Assign it. Back to locomotion. Okay, so for walking, we are going to use the root motion animation. So let's go ahead and select the walk. I'm going to assign it to both forward and backward. Note you need to give it a move speed. So we're going to say at speed of 1 it's walking. -1 will be for backward. And we're also going to reverse the animation, -1 for the clip speed. Since there is no actual walking backward, this is going to allow us to have him walk backward by using the walk forward animation, but in reverse. Now for the run, and I did this wrong because we want the root motion, so let me go back and assign the root motion ones. Okay. Now for the run, or run root motion, same thing, assign it to both forward and backward. I'm going to make this a speed of 2, this one -2, and -1 clip speed. Turning animations, we're going to use the walk turn left and walk turn right. Okay, now if this character did not have any attacks and we didn't want it to attack, then we'd be all done at this point. But we are going to give it one attack, which we did define in the ability object. We're going to call this attack 1. Actually, this is a group, not the ability yet. This is going to be melee. Melee for melee attacks. I'm going to add that, select it. We are going to copy from base so that all the base root motion turnings and idles and walkings are all also part of the ability. So copy that. So if you look hit animations, we inherited that, we inherited the death, we inherited all the locomotions. So now we just can move to the abilities. This is where we're going to add our attack 1, add it, select it, and make sure we just get our clip, attack 1. Just looks like he just hits his head up with kind of like his little tusks will spear the player. So we're going to assign that. Make sure you do assign it. And we want to add that ability object that we created, the bore attack. Later on, it would be possible for you to actually use the same animation here and assign multiple ability objects. And they would be treated as separate abilities, but they would have different effects. For now, we're just using the one. So everything is assigned. We should be good to go to create this AI. So let's drag this into the scene. I'm going to rename it and just call it Boar. Now if we bring up Tools, SoulLink AI Editor, the AI name is going to be Boar. We're using root motion. Controller name Boar. Select the animator template, Boar. The defaults came up here for tag, layer. Faction relations, we're going to use the built-in animal. And basically the way the animal factions work is that they won't attack you unless you attack them. But if you attack them, they will attack you back, if they're capable. We're going to use a height of 1 and use Z-axis for the collider because that's going to be a lengthwise because it's a long, he's not upright, he's on all fours. No physic material. We do have a footstep object, so we'll just go ahead and assign the animal footstep object. We'll assign the hit effects object. Con system's automatically set up. The AIS health bar is already set. The spawn action is already set. We'll just make this level 1 with all the base values. And click set up. Alright. So we can close. Well, actually, let's take a look in here. before we go on, because there is something we do have to do. If we go into here, now we can see that it has the abilities, and it has a bore attack, 1, but as you note, we can see that it's in red, which means we have some issues. We need to assign some animation events to this in order to work correctly. So we go to events, and you can see these are all the buttons to assign events. We've got a playability sound, we've got footstep sound, projectiles. This one is a play sound. This is just a generic sound you can play. This is the performability, which is at the point in the animation where you want it to actually apply the ability, which would, be the damage and so forth. So first thing we do is we want to go forward and say, okay, right about, let's start from down here for the sound. So we're going to play the sound here. So he'll start making his pig noise here to attack. And then when it actually goes up, that's where we want the attack to occur. Now we can click performability and a damage multiplier, and then with this is checked, that means that that's the end of the ability. Now the reason why you would not want to do end ability necessarily is if this is an animation with a combo and there's like 2 or 3 like actual attacks, you would want to perform the ability multiple times and only end the ability on the final step of the combo. And you could do it where, let's say he's a sword attack and he does a slash and then jump and slash with 2 hands. You might say damage multiplier 1, damage multiplier 1, and then a damage multiplier 3 on the final attack. This case, we're just doing the one ability. So we're going to hit performability here, and it will end the ability. Okay, now it's happy. It's green, meaning that, okay, it's got everything it needs in order to use this ability and work correctly. Okay, so now let's go to our AI in the scene, and we're going to make some adjustments here. The capsule collider is in the right orientation as we wanted it to, but it's not, lined up very well. So we're going to edit that, move that in a little, move this out a little, move this up, this down. That's a good representation of his body. Health bar, we note that it's a little high. So we're going to go to the health bar, we're going to move it down, and I'm also going to move it forward. Okay. Other things, since we are using the Invector controller, we're going to add the Invector bridge component. This is to allow the Invector to actually hit it and damage it. If you're using other controllers, like OpSiv, you would use the OpSiv bridge, and also other game controllers. We have bridges for those as well, so you would use the appropriate bridge. All right, now that we've got that, I think that's all we need to start with. Let's go down to our AI animal prefab. We're going to drag this in there, so we save that off. Say yes, that's an original prefab. Remove it from the scene. Always make sure that you're at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Transform when you create a prefab like that. Let's go back to the starting area of the scene, and I'll put him in the scene now. There is one thing I did forget. We do have the footstep object, but it does not have the events to handle that. So let me go to the character, animals, forest animals, boar, FBX. Okay, so we want to look at the walk route motion. And for every step that he takes, we have to kind of, okay, so it starts like this, that's a step there. Let's say right there. It's actually 2, like in succession, but we're just going to use 1. It's close enough. Well, we can do both. Let's do this. So we're going to add an event here. And we're going to call it event underscore play step, which is the function that you need to call to play a footstep sound. And then you just want to go a little further. That one also step there. So there's another one. Where else? And then we have right there. And then there should be one more. No, that's it actually. No, there's a final one there. And we're going to apply that. So now he's got footsteps. We should do the same thing for the run. So let's see. This one might be a little different. There. We'll just do it right there. These are kind of in sync. Oops. Oops, wrong thing, sorry. There's another one we'll put there. There's another one. Okay, and then start it over. Apply that. Okay. Let's see what results we have. Did it work? I believe there's some other sounds we need to add as well. Which I did not do. I'll take a look at the pig sound, see what I can use for the for that. For a hit sound. We got a squealing sound. Let's see what that sounds like. It's a little long, but see what this one looks like. Wild boar. No, that was the attack. Snorting sound. Now we'll go with the squeal, and I'll just leave it as is for now because it's fairly straightforward. So let's go to our AI prefab. We're going to open it. Actually, we don't need to open it. Let's just go down to the character abilities. No, it's a combat. It's going to be under combat. Sounds. Hit sounds. When I add a hit sound. So let's do the squealing sound. I'm going to change the range on these sounds. It's just going to be the one sound. And I don't have a death sound either. Let's just try that first and see what we get with the hit sound. All right, we're going to leave it at that for this tutorial, and we'll move into more advanced things in the next one.